So for those of you who are regular to my channel and actually watch my videos, you will know that in my previous video, I spoke about the Sigma 16mm f1.4 contemporary lens for APS-C cameras. And during that video somewhere, I also mentioned that you can also use this for full frame cameras. Now you might be thinking why that's a problem. Now the reason why that's significant is because the actual inside of the mount section of these lenses is narrower. So it's made to be used with an APS-C sensor. So when you actually attach it to a full frame sensor, that full frame sensor isn't only capturing the narrow section of the mount, it's capturing stuff around it as well, which leads to you getting the circular vignetting that you're going to see here. Like I'm going to show you on the screen right now. This is what happens when you attach a APS-C camera to a full frame sensor. You get that circular vignetting around the edges. And now that's a problem, and that's why you generally can't use APS-C lenses on a full frame camera, and you have to buy full frame lenses for those ones. And obviously they tend to be a little bit more expensive. But if you still wanted to use the APS-C lenses like the Sigma 16mm on your full frame camera, and in this case I'm particularly showing you for the Sony A7S III because that's what I have access to. It might work slightly differently for other cameras, or might not work for other cameras, or it might be slightly easier to use on other cameras. For the Sony A7S III, there's a couple of things you can do. Now in photo mode, you can just basically attach this and go into the APS-C mode, or the Super 35 mode, or the crop mode, the 1.6 times crop mode, and that will basically get rid of that vignetting, and that will mean that you can use your 16mm lens for that, but it will add that additional 1.6 times crop. Now the limitation I have when using a lens like this on a lens like this, meaning an APS-C lens on a full frame camera, especially for video work, which is what I predominantly do, is the fact that in log mode, this camera doesn't actually allow you to go into Super 35 mode or APS-C mode. It does if you're not using log. If you're using a normal picture profile, it will allow you to do that. But because I shoot everything predominantly in S-Log3, it doesn't give me that option. So what can I do to make that work? Well, there is a slight workaround. If I attach this whilst filming in log onto the camera, you're going to get that circular vignetting around here, which again is a problem. However, the workaround that I found to that is to do this. If you throw your camera into active stabilization mode, so just hit the stabilization option in your menus, go in and change that to active stabilization. What that will actually do is that will crop in ever so much, a little bit. And that crop is just about enough to get rid of that large amount of vignetting. You'll still see in the corners there's some slight vignetting, but that's not much of an issue because you can then again in post-production crop in a little bit more and you'll get rid of that rather than having to crop in huge amounts in post, which again is a problem. But with this, you'll at least be able to use comfortably the 16mm lens to almost its maximum focal length on a full frame camera, despite this being an APS-C lens. Now, I don't know who this is going to be useful for. For me, it's quite useful because there are times where I wish that I had something slightly wider than the 20mm, various times if I'm vlogging or if I'm taking wide shots and I just need to have something slightly wider. It's helpful to have something like this where I can just use the Sigma 16mm rather than buy another full frame lens for my camera and just chuck in that active stabilization mode and it tends to work. So yeah, again, I don't know what use cases you might use this for, whether it's going to be handy for you or not, but for those of you who are interested, that's your workaround. There you have it, using the Sigma 16mm f1.4 with the Sony A7S III whilst shooting in log. That's a lot of requirements, but there it is. I hope this video was useful to you guys. If you enjoyed it or if it was useful, then please hit that subscribe button. And if you have any comments whatsoever, or if you have anything to say that I might be doing wrong, or there might be a better way of doing what I'm doing with the APS-C lens on a full frame camera, then do definitely hit me up in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to hear any suggestions, any criticisms of that, anything that you might suggest me able to do better, maybe why I shouldn't use the Sigma 16mm with the Sony A7S III. I don't know. Whatever it is, more than happy to hear your thoughts. Hit me down in the comments below. I'll always reply to all my comments. And until next time, this is Kai24 signing out.